Hi everyone, welcome to a new video. Today I'm sitting here with Clara, one of my lovely clients that I've been working with for a couple of months that has an amazing recovery story to share today. I'm really excited for today's recovery story. I think you're gonna get a lot from it, and so I want to welcome you, Clara, to this video
Thank
and to
you.
the YouTube channel. How are you feeling today?
Really excited.
Okay, that's
Mhm.
So why don't you start off by kind of giving the people that are watching a little bit of background story on your journey with DPDR and anxiety and kind of, yeah, how you would describe how it started, what your symptoms were, how long you struggled with it, and just giving your story a little bit.
Yeah, so I think I've always had a problem with anxiety. I've always struggled with anxiety. I've had my first panic attack probably when I was about 11, and that kind of continued throughout my teenage years. But when you're like in your safe environment and somehow you've had it for so long and you kind of develop a lot of coping mechanisms to like numb yourself from everything that's going on. And I think that has been the case for me a lot of like my teenage years and early adult years. And then last year, in actually nearly 1 year ago, I moved completely across the globe to Japan from Germany. And that's kind of when my anxiety really started to go wild. The first 2 months were okay, but then when we moved to another city and my husband started working again, and I had to spend a lot of time here by myself. And I can speak Japanese to some extent, but I'm not like completely fluent even after 1 year now. And that's when it really hit me. I remember that one day where I had this like crazy huge panic attack. I was just sitting on the floor and suddenly it hit me, and it that was kind of when my whole world got shattered in a way. And after that, like right after that, the PDR started for me. And first of all, it was this crazy feeling of unreality. And for me, DPDR comes with this like huge feeling of doom and like overwhelm and complete, I don't know, a feeling of kind of being unable to exist in the world, if that makes sense. And as I said, I was alone a lot of the time. So I kind of had to force myself to go out, and I would like force myself to go to cafes, for example, and then sit in the cafe and feel like I I'm so lost. I can't get up. I don't even know how to get home. And just I would look at things and I would be super. I described to you that feeling once, like if you've watched the movie Twilight, when Bella turns into a vampire and she's like super aware of the smallest things around me. I don't know, it's like the most bizarre feeling and the most scary feeling I've ever felt in my life. And for me, it started with anxiety, and then because DPDR kind of makes you question a lot and like your reality, and am I real, is everything else real, are people real, and stuff like that, that kind of triggered some like existential questions as well. And because I think my whole like environment and everything was so new to me, and the people were just so new to me. And so I also struggled a lot like with the concept of people and humans and where I am. And the sky, sometimes I would look at the sky and feel like I'm going crazy just by looking.
Mhm.
at that. Mhm.
And I can imagine too, because what I remember from my journey with it is that you can be in different places and that can be triggering because things like
Yeah.
people don't feel like normal or they feel foreign. But then you go back home and you see the people you always see, or you have like certain things that you do feel accustomed to, but then when you're moving to not just a different country, but a different culture with different
Mhm.
people, I can imagine, and like the buildings look different, everything looks different, that it's only going to enlarge this like alienated feeling of feeling like you're just living on some weird planet. Yeah, so that must have been even more triggering for you, especially in the beginning.
Yeah. And I think one of the main things for me, I was so frightened, and I was, as you can imagine, I was also so alone because of course I have my husband and I have his family here, but his family only speaks Japanese. And of course I talked to my husband, but I didn't have any other contacts yet. And also I didn't want to, like, I don't know, call my family at home and tell them, I've been having these weird feelings and sensations and I think I'm going crazy. And I didn't want to worry them. So I, everything just felt so, so hopeless. And I honestly, sometimes I didn't know how to get up in the morning, how to survive the day. And it was really, really horrible.
Yeah. What
Mhm.
was your like most intense symptoms? You described like looking at people and not feeling like you could understand or grasp them. What are like anxiety, of course, panic attacks? What other symptoms did you have? It's sometimes difficult to put into words, but if you can describe for us.
I think my most horrible feeling was actually the people thing, because I'm such a people person. I love people. I love to talk to people and I love connecting with people. And that, like, feeling of I couldn't understand like my own being in a way. And then that made it so hard to understand others and to get to know others. That was probably one of the harder things. And also, like, for me, looking in the mirror was also really hard. Like, every day I would do my makeup, and I don't know, looking at myself too closely also really scared me at times. um and this just, that feeling of I didn't know how to exist anymore. Like, this, I felt like this, suddenly I was pulled out of that world that everyone was living in daily and just not thinking about anything. And suddenly someone grabbed me and, like in a movie, and put me into a whole different setting, a whole different world. And that just scared the shit out of me at that time. It's
I definitely
horrible.
imagine. Yeah. So something that I wanted to, I guess, like have you talk about a little bit. I think one of the things that I found so beautiful in your journey was that your recovery was not just like focusing on your symptoms. It was really almost like looking at the core of who you
Mhm.
are and kind of the way you've been living your life before and after the DPDR. You've gone through or you are going through such a beautiful transformation, I think, as a person. And what are the things that I guess the DPDR taught you about, first of all, why it was there? So kind of now looking
Mhm.
back and understanding why it was there for you, if you're open to share about that a little bit, and also what you felt you had to change in order for it to go away and in order for yourself to recover.
So first of all, I think I want to say that my recovery wasn't and still isn't a very, like, linear process. I think we've talked about that before in our sessions, but it was a very up and down process. When we started meeting, I started getting better quite fast.
Yeah.
But then I had like a real crash down again, and then slowly climbing my way up again. And then I had just like at the beginning of the year, I think like another huge setback. And
Mm.
for me, my recovery was really about getting to the core of where my anxiety came from, because I had anxiety all these years, and DPDR, I think, was just the last, I don't know, the last cry for help from myself. Like, something is so wrong here. We can't go on like that. There is something that needs to be acknowledged so badly. And what we did in our sessions was like, really, I felt like taking apart my whole life and all the layers of like beliefs and things that I've like built up over all these years, and really getting to the core of who is actually the one that's scared right now. And for me, I didn't expect my journey would go that way, but it turned out to be a lot of like kind of inner child work in a way, because after some sessions I had like a real bad, my biggest setback maybe, where we had like a kind of emergency session, and I was like,
Yeah.
Robin, it's so bad again. And then I think one of the big breakthrough points for me was when you asked me like, how old does that fear feel? And then I could quite easily like pinpoint a real age. And after I kind of, yeah, noticed, that's where it came from. And that's why I've been acting the way I have been and avoiding the things I have been avoiding. That's kind of when a huge shift for me happened, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And one of your big themes has been like letting yourself feel more confident and feel more capable.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm.
kind of you being the one to take care of that little child and being confident and reassured in that. Um, can you talk a little bit about, I guess, what you feel is changing for you now? Like, how do you feel like you've been changing throughout this process? And like, in what way has that been the necessary change that you've had to make to feel safer within yourself again?
So I think I told you in one of our sessions, like I never felt my age for some reason. I'm 26 now, just for reference, but I always felt a lot younger and a lot more incapable than I actually am. And a lot of that, I think, got triggered by moving here and being on my own. I noticed that I've never really been on my own my whole life, and kind of being the only one that's been there for myself. And this realization, I never had it before, that I need to be the one to take care of myself, and I need to be the one to feel safe within myself. That's not the job of other people, that's my job. And it has been a really rough way to discover that, but I think it was really, really necessary for me to discover that. And one of the changes that has been happening is like I've become a lot more confident, a lot more grown in a way, because I can now kind of distance myself from that other age that I've been maybe so terrified in, and I can look at that person as a part of me, but not me anymore. And
Yeah.
that has been a really beautiful change for me.
Yeah, and I think just like one of the things that we worked on was like just a very small thing, but it kind of brought a lot of insight, I think, for both of us in kind of making your progress was your posture, um,
Yeah,
the way
exactly.
that you present yourself and the way that you sit. I remember in our first sessions, your posture was like you literally were
Yeah.
hiding. You constantly apologized when you felt something. It was like
Yeah.
you disappeared almost. And
Mhm.
it's interesting to see that as your process continued, I feel like like you said in the beginning, you made really quick progress very
Mhm.
fast in the beginning,
Mhm. Yes.
especially. I think because you were so ready to
Yeah.
change
I
your.
was like, this can't stay like this. I need to change this.
Yeah, and you were very open. That's one of the things that I think that is the reason why you made such quick progress is because you were really interested as well and open to dive underneath the surface of the DPDR,
Yeah.
not just
I
be
remember
so.
I always told you, what's my homework? What can I do until next session?
Yeah, yeah, and but also just that you were open to explore where this was all coming from and what's underneath the surface. I think a lot of people get so obsessed with their symptoms and fixing the symptoms. And sometimes it's not necessary to go in the past too much, but sometimes it is helpful. And I think that's what was really good about your recovery is that you really realized, okay, this is here for a reason. And
Yeah.
instead of being so obsessed with the symptoms, I need to fix the reason why it's here. I need to change the relationship with myself and with that little girl that feels so unsafe and unprotected in the world. And
Mhm.
that's the work I have to do. And um, every time you did have a setback, I noticed over time, first of all, the setbacks got you recovered a lot quicker, which is, I think, something is very typical of the progress for people that are watching. Um, Everyone wants to have that linear journey of just kind of going up and up and up. That's not
Yeah.
the case. No,
That's the dream.
yeah, that's the dream.
Yeah.
But the way to measure your progress is not by having setbacks, but from
Yeah.
how quickly you bounce back from the setbacks,
Yeah.
and also how often the setbacks happen, I guess. And every time you had a setback, it was almost like there was another layer of the onion that needed to be peeled.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we
Exactly.
healed this little part, now it's time to heal another part. And every time we went through it, and it was always beautiful to see you come out at the other end. And I feel like every time we took off one of these layers, your posture changed and you like
Yeah.
opened up and felt and like I could see you get feeling more and more mature and like strong and not strong but like confident every single time. And it's been really
Yeah.
beautiful being able to see that happened.
Thank
I wish
you.
the people watching could have seen you in the first session and see that.
I don't.
Yeah.
What I always noticed that like it needed to happen was that I was always very like once we started talking about something, I got overwhelmed with my emotions a lot, and that was always a sign for me like, okay, there is something that needs work and that needs healing. And yeah,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
definitely cried a lot.
Yeah. I think when you're highly sensitive or when you feel a lot, sometimes that can be very intense and overwhelming. And I think that's part of the DPR as well, is that if you feel unsafe with feeling so much that you tend to dissociate from that or block that out. But I think you were a really beautiful example of if you just allow yourself to feel and you
Mhm.
surrender to it, there can also
Mhm.
be so much beautiful like information and healing that can come from that because
Yeah.
you not only felt a lot of fear, but you throughout your journey also could then feel a lot of love for yourself and feel an intense love for that little child and use that as a strength, not only seeing that as a weakness. It's
Yeah.
okay to be someone that feels a lot. You just have to learn to let yourself be sensitive and feel and not block that out, but in fact feel more strong with feeling all those emotions.
Mhm. I think I was just so scared of myself and what that emotions and also the DPR could do to me that I completely lost sight of that I am actually the one in charge of me, and I completely gave everything to the DPDR, to the anxiety, that yeah, it really got to the point where I know where to locate it, and yeah, it really doesn't scare me as much
Yeah.
anymore.
So how do you look at where you are today then? Like how do you see yourself today and how do you feel right?
Mhm. Right now, I feel really good. I feel really at peace. Um, I said in actually, I think our last session that I had this like realization the other day. I was just, I don't know, eating dinner or something, and suddenly this thought like popped up in my head, and it was like there was something inside me that got me through every panic attack, every shit day, the hardest days of my life. There was something inside me that knows how to live and that wants to live, and I really started to lean into that feeling of that deep inside of you there is safety, and there is that part that knows how to walk, how to do anything in life. And I think when we experience DPR, we forget that we can trust that part. And I've been really in the process of trying to trust that part again, trying to trust me again, making decisions out of not out of fear, but out of what I want to do and what are things I want in life, and kind of finding back to myself and discovering again what I like, because that I felt that also got lost in the DPDR process, because you're just so caught up that you forget about, you can't focus on anything else basically.
Mhm.
And yeah, I've I've been really good discovering myself again, kind of.
That's good to hear.
Mhm.
And do you feel, I guess, normal again now? Do you feel like what does recovery feel like for you?
A lot of times I feel normal again. I mean, what does normal really mean? That's also something I learned in this process. Um, I I don't think of it a lot during my day anymore, but there are always these like glimpses of it. But I guess also a thing that I've learned is that you have to give it time. I
Yeah.
always hope there would be like this one day, maybe for some people there is, I don't know, that there's like this switch and suddenly it's turned off, but it's not. Sometimes I'm still scared a little, but then immediately it just goes on. I know this. It's nothing to be scared about, and then I can regulate that emotion a lot better.
Hmm.
Um, and I think over time it will just fade away.
If you were to put a percentage on how how you feel like recovered versus PDR still being there sometimes, what would that be for you?
I would say 90%,
Mm.
maybe.
Yeah. I
And
think
of
yeah.
course, yeah.
I think the moment that people feel recovered is, and I
Mhm.
remember that for myself, is like when you feel like you're living life again, you feel happy, you feel at peace, and you feel recovered. But that last,
Mhm.
I've talked about in so many videos, that last 10% is like the fading out of just a little bit the memory of it, and also kind of
Mhm.
the aftershock sometimes of like what on earth
Yeah.
did this go through, and you like the last little bit of really fully feeling normal again is almost just forgetting about it and like being so in living life again that you forget to think about it. And I remember like a few weeks ago we had a session and you said that you hadn't thought about it for like the whole week or something, or
Mhm.
you didn't have any DPDR the whole week, and that you just kind of thought of it like, oh, I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
And that's when you know you're getting better, is when you are not obsessed with it anymore, and that if you do have a little glimpse of it because you feel a bit stressed or a bit anxious, that you can greet it like a little friend or a little child, and just go, okay, I know you, and you're gonna pass.
Hi.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
The one thing I would say is that you really can't think your way out of DPDR. I've tried that for months and months and months, and whenever I think about it, it gets triggered for me. And so the more you think about it, the more it will be there. And that's, yeah, just
Yeah,
something to keep in mind.
absolutely, absolutely. So, if you were to have to say to the people watching, what were the things that you did that helped you the most in getting to where you are today, to that 90% recovery, and I guess the last 10% just fading out? What would it
Mm.
what are the things that helped you the most, that you did, that you practiced, that yeah, if you could share that with the people watching.
I think number one is once you know what it is, stop Googling.
Yeah.
Stop, don't get off of the internet, get off of any books. Don't listen to other people except like the people you're working with to get better. But that's like so many times I got triggered by someone saying, oh, I've had it for 5 years and it's still there. And sometimes that scared me so bad. And then I would immediately think, oh, that will be me.
Mhm.
No one, I will be the one that's the exception, like many others said before. Second, for me, it was also a lot about like believing that I'm safe. For example, what I did, we in our sessions, we did some belief exercises and changed my beliefs about myself and how I felt in my body. And I would record that beliefs and I would like have one AirPod in my ear at night and I would fall asleep listening to these beliefs like over and over again. And
Yeah.
then I would wake up with them in my head. That was quite helpful.
Mhm.
And mm, just just believe, trust yourself that you will get through, even it's super, super hard. And there are days when you can't really believe it, but you have to be the one that deep within you has to believe that you got this, and because you are the one that can change this whole situation. And I know you can, everyone can. If I can with my 0% of self-confidence and overthinking and stuff, then I promise everyone else can do that as well. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, okay, that's beautiful. I think one thing you also did that I really loved was how creative you
Mm.
got with working on that self-love and self-compassion.
Mhm.
Like you journaled a lot, you really embraced the inner child work, which was beautiful. And you'd sent me like a little like things that you wrote down for yourself,
Yeah, yeah.
pictures, and like that was, I think, one of the things that you also did that helped you a lot was really seeing this as a journey towards yourself again, not just a journey out of DPDR, but like a journey to reconnect with yourself and to
Yeah.
love yourself and feel safe within yourself again. Um and yeah, that's, I guess, something I would add kind of as my
Yeah.
perspective of you. Hmm.
And I, yeah, it's I don't know how to put it. Um, just don't listen to anything you hear, or don't take your mind too seriously, because most of the days it will tell you, it will try to prepare you for the worst, that you're never going to get out. And I really had to learn that I'm not my thoughts, I'm not what they tell me, and what they tell me is not true.
Hmm.
And just don't listen to them. They're
I
talking
agree.
nonsense.
Is there anything else that you feel you haven't mentioned or talked about that you still want to share in this video today?
Mm, I guess I've said everything I wanted to say. I just, yeah, want to tell everyone that you you got this. You really do. And Robin is she has been the biggest help in my recovery and in a lot of other people's recovery. And it's really the best thing I ever did for myself, honestly. So thank you so much. And
Oh, sweet.
everyone, don't give up, and you got this, I promise. Mhm.
That's amazing. What is, okay, let me ask you this. What is the
Yeah.
one quote or the one sentence that you would use to describe this journey for you?
Um, I think probably the only person I ever lost and needed back was myself. Because that's really what this was about.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mhm.
I just got a little teary because of that. That's so beautiful. And I think that's
That just
describes.
came up.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Ah,
I
thank you so much for doing this today. I
No
hope you
problem.
appreciated it. Can people ask you questions in the comments? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Okay, amazing. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for watching today. And thank you, Clara, for joining. I will
Thank you.
see you all in my next video. And like I just asked Clara, if you have any questions for her, feel free to just drop a comment and I'll make sure she gets it.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you so much for having me. See
you.
you soon.
Bye.
Bye.